Hey, Johnny America, are you tired of listening to the same 10 songs played over and over on your local radio station? Well, we have the perfect product for you. Introducing the latest from Tarmus, a subsidiary of i3 Detroit and the Red Bull Creation Challenge, the ChronoTune! Modeled after the Philco 90s series cathedral-style radio popular in the 1930s, the ChronoTune has that desired vintage look and exciting new features! This radio will take you wherever you want to go in time. From Mozart to Madonna, from the Big Bang to the Big Crunch, you can listen across the span of time. Simply turn the dial to the desired year and enjoy the sounds of the day. And we do mean sounds, not just radio programming. The ChronoTune picks up whatever you can hear. This amazing vamping of vintage radio continues the theme of incorporating the new with the old by featuring both an analog dial display and a Nixie tube-style digital display. Unlike traditional vacuum tube Nixies, the ChronoTune solid-state tube readout requires less power and is available in many colors. The ChronoTune contains advanced electronics powered by Arduino with AVR technology. Call now and order yours for 23 easy payments of $3 million. You too can own yours.
ChronoTune.
Phone number not available at this time.
Hi, I'm Roger Slykouse.
And I'm Eric Merrill.
And we're from the i3 Detroit Red Bull Creation Challenge team. And we're here to kind of introduce the topic and tell you what we did. So we came up with a time-traveling radio after a little bit of discussion. We hit on this idea. And
the idea of it is that instead of frequencies, you have years. So as you tune, you hear audio from that year. And you could put all sorts of audio, historical or future, fake, whatever. If you want to turn it on here, we'll show you. We just have a small number of clips on here right now, but it's really easy to add more. You just add an SD card and you name the file with the year. So I think we're going up to the 1940s here.
Yeah, I'll tune it to 1943. There we go.
When a week ago today, Mr. Speaker, I asked the House to fix this afternoon as the occasion for a statement, I feared it would be my hard.
So as you can hear, audio from World War II. It's based off the Philco 70 cathedral radio. We talk a little bit later in this video about how we made it. And that's about it. The rest of this video is just us and the other two team members talking about what we did for this project. I hope you enjoy.
The ChronoTune is controlled by an Arduino microcontroller module, which actually has an Atmel AVR at its core, which basically calls the shots for the other modules. The audio files themselves come off this micro MP3 module, which is made by Rogue Robotics out of Canada, right? Mm-hmm. And so that actually generates the audio on command. There's some other sounds stored on these ISD voice storage modules, which basically give us storage of short sounds that we can use for tuning and static noise and things like that, to make the operation of the radio itself more realistic. The faux Nixie displays up top are driven by shift registers and an off-board controller board over here. Audio is put out by the just an LM386 amplifier, and the actual present-day radio, if you happen to tune to 2011, there's an FM tuner module buried back in there, which actually picks the station off the air and gives you live audio. The dial scale. This is actually my favorite part of the design. When you turn the tuning knob, you're not actually moving the scale directly. You're simply encoding motion that the Arduino senses, and then it drives the motor, which was salvaged out of an inkjet printer. And so the way the print head would move across the paper is how the dial is moved across the front of the instrument. This mechanism means that if the radio gets bored, if you haven't touched the dial in a while, and it runs out of material for a particular year, it can just go hunting around the dial until it finds something else.
Go, talk about programming.
So we kind of broken it into two parts, more or less. Ted
I did a little bit of interfacing with the MP3 module. We actually used mostly the Arduino environment, right? I don't think we
I didn't go out of the Arduino
We didn't
environment.
get fancy with it.
So what were the challenges you ran into with the programming?
Surprisingly, a lot of motion control problems with which you wouldn't expect when you're designing a radio, but we actually made a custom encoder so that it can sense the position of the dial as it moves back and forth. Repurposing a inkjet printer is a little more complicated than you might think, but it works really well rather than building your own mechanical mechanism.
And a lot of just the interface between, because there's no connection between the knob and the pointer, just the math and the behavior of it is pretty complicated. You have a lot of possible things that might happen. You know, what happens when you spin it really fast, or what happens when you spin it then go back and just let it go, or whatever. And it's much more complicated than it might seem on the surface.
Okay, so once we decided on what design we were going to use for the ChronoTune, we found the actual patent design drawings that they used for the Philco 70 and 90 series, the Cathedral, and we pulled that off, and Eric took that and did his magic with it on the laser powder.
So I took the patent drawing, and in Adobe Illustrator I sliced it up into traces and made a board that's 6 layers thick, because obviously we can only cut 2-dimensional items. So we cut out the 6 layers here on our laser cutter, and then we can stack them up into this finished faceplate, which we then stained and varnished.
Right, so there were a couple of little additions we made to it, though, because in order to make this better, one thing we took was instead of having this little tuner dial in here where you saw one little window, we made a full linear display. We made 2 larger knobs, one for tuning and one for on-off and volume. And then we added this little tweak at the top. You may have heard of Nixie tubes, the little vacuum tubes with little numerals inside them that used to be used in a lot of equipment. And now we added a little enhancement at the top to show a digital display with faux Nixies. We took some test tubes out of the chemistry lab, some 7-segment displays, some high-power LEDs, hooked those up to a little microcontroller, and made them display and glow as it's tuning. So in the pictures that you've probably seen already, you'll notice that this is glowing, the segments are on, as well as a linear display dial here.
Okay, this is the junkyard or the graveyard of I3 Detroit. This is where we can pick all kinds of electronics, parts, cables. This is where we salvaged the inkjet printer that serves as the mechanism that makes the dial move. We're always happy to recycle parts out of here. Often a source of inspiration for mechanisms and whatnot, and it's also always happy to get rid of some junk.
Okay, so to bend the wood for the back cover of the ChronoTune, I needed to do something I'd never done before. I grew up, woodworking in the basement, but everything I've ever built was focused on rigidity, and here I needed to focus on flexibility. And for that, I had to remove most of the structure of the plywood. So this is an offcut, and what I did is I just notched out the underside of it on the table saw here. And so it's, in the part where it's notched out, it's very flexible. It still didn't bend quite the way I wanted. This whole project has been a learning experience, and there's more learning yet to be done. The skeleton was basically the ribs that had already been cut by Eric. He made the faceplate and then rib going back to give the thing some form. I just made some transverse ribs also on saw to form a cross-like structure in the back, and then bent this over. And it was pretty cool, just draping this over and having it basically fall into place. I'd never seen that before.
Sadly enough, the ChronoTune does not actually pull audio through time, but it rather relies on recorded media that we could get from all over the internet. So the ChronoTune, we have a large collection. There's a 4 gigabyte memory stick in there that has a big collection of MP3 files of music, news broadcasts, any historical recordings, some historical recreations that we found, and even some silly stuff that we recorded in the future and in the far past. I am Ted Hansen.
Nate Zanson.
Eric Merrill.
Roger Slykehouse.
And this is
I3
I3 Detroit.